What is up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel, Zaynomics Gaming. Today we have a brand new build video for the Warlock class. It is centered around the Arc subclass, as well as the Cold Heart Trace Rifle is performing very well inside of PvE and PvP. I hope you guys try it out. But first, before we jump into that video, if you enjoy this content, consider subscribing to my channel and liking this video. It is a free way to support me, and I greatly appreciate it. Now let's dive into this build. Now, first and foremost, we are utilizing Cold Heart Trace Rifle. Like I said, it is performing very well. And you are also going to need the Getaway Artist Exotic Gauntlets. Those are performing very well as well. And we are taking advantage of the Flashbang Grenade because it has the fastest cooldown time. Now, for PvE, you don't necessarily have to use the Flashbang Grenade just because you're going to get your grenade back all the time with as many ionic traces that we are creating and the orbs of power. But for PvP, you definitely want to run the flashbang grenade because it has the fastest cooldown and you're able to consume it at a quicker rate. And this gives you the ability to have that arc soul all the time. And basically what it is when you consume your grenade, you are creating a more powerful arc soul altogether. It attracts more aggressively. It also makes you amplified immediately. Now, being amplified is very important for this build. One, we are taking advantage of Thunderous Retort, which is a seasonal mod. It basically states grants bonus arc super damage if cast while critically wounded or amplified. And of course, we can make ourselves amplified, so we get bonus super damage. We're also taking advantage of Amped Up, which gain damage resistance while you are amplified. So those are two key things there that we're already gaining just by being amplified. And with us being able to do that all on our own is just fantastic. Now, of course, we could take this a step further with the Electric Armor seasonal mod, and it basically states stay amplified longer while your arc subclass is equipped, of which of course we are using our arc subclass. And then also for that fifth column, we are taking advantage of Shock and Awe. Arc final blows while you are amplified summon a burst of lightning that damages and jolts targets, which is why you see all of the explosions in the background when I'm using Cold Heart. Now, for our fragments, we are going to be taking advantage of Spark of Amplitude. Rapidly defeating targets while you are amplified creates an orb of power. Spark of Beacons. While you are amplified, your arc special weapon final blows create a blinding explosion. Spark of Instinct. While critically wounded, taking damage emits a burst of damaging arc energy that jolts targets. And then Spark of Feedback, taking melee damage briefly increases your outgoing melee damage. And that pretty much just gives me a plus 10 resilience, that's why I'm using it. But other than that, you can see the other fragments pair very well with this build. Now, for our grenade, like I stated earlier, we are going to be using the Flashbang Grenade, especially mainly for PvP, just because it does have the faster cooldown time. But with this current build, you can use any grenade that you want, and you could probably make more of an outgoing power because we're not using lightning strikes twice, which is a grenade mod. But since I'm consuming my grenade, it's not really necessary. Now, the only drawback to this build, unfortunately, is it does not stun unstoppable champions. So when I do get that special weapon explosion, it does blind the enemies in that vicinity or that area, but it does not stun the unstoppable champions due to the fact that I do have overload on. So if you have overload on for overload trace rifles, you may have to disable it if you're trying to use this build for unstoppables. Now, you can still throw your grenade and blind the unstoppables and, you know, trigger that reaction, but if you have overload mod already on, you will not be able to use the same weapon or the same type of ability to stun unstoppable champions as well as disrupt overloads. So just keep that in mind. That's really the only drawback to this weapon or this build, for that matter, for PvE. Other than that, it's very fun to use. Of course, there's other options, you know, Wrist Runner and Trinity's Ghoul. There's so many other little options that you could use, but I decided to use a trace rifle, especially since we have overload trace rifle this season. And with this being a special weapon, you can create that blinding explosion, because with that fragment you can only make that work with a special weapon, and trace rifles have a fantastic ammo economy currently inside of Destiny 2. And just a reminder to you guys, we are trying to stay amplified as long as possible, and when you are utilizing this build, when you create all of those ionic traces, it refreshes that amplified timer. So definitely keep that in mind. And like I said, with amplified, you do gain damage resist. It can help keep you alive, as well as it helps give you back your ability. So it plays an important role in this build. And of course, staying amplified also increases your super damage output. And of course, I will have a dim link of this build in the description of this video. Now moving on to PvP. PvP, you're essentially going to be doing the same thing, except you definitely need to use the flashbang grenades. That way you can eat them a lot quicker. You will be able to consistently always be amplified. You'll be able to take advantage of all of the additional stuff, and you will have your turret all the time. So that is the important thing with this, as well as Cold Heart. So once you get a kill with Cold Heart, it does create that explosion, and it also blinds your enemies. It's fantastic, it's fun to use, and it throws a lot of people off guard because they're being rushed by this turret, and then they're also being rushed with Cold Heart. Now the interesting thing about Cold Heart is it sort of has intrinsic target lock, so it does increase that damage over time, similar to like the Immortal, all of the other weapons that have target lock, and it works. It works very well together. It's so fun to play with. You definitely need to try it out. And then of course, with the shock and awe, arc final blows while you are amplified, summon a burst of lightning that damages and jolts targets. So typically what I do is I try to get the kill on them, or I try to get enough damage out of them. I can slide in, do my melee, or the arc explosion will clean them up from the trace rifle. So it's absolutely fantastic to play with. A lot of people don't see it coming, so it definitely throws them off. As well as the explosions often give that blinding effect. So a lot of people like to hold hands, typically inside the Crucible, especially right now with all the scout rifles and the auto rifles. There's a lot of that going on where it's a lot of team shooting. So if you're able to get that explosion off, it'll jolt them, damage them, and it'll also blind them. So it makes for quick cleanup for your teammates as well as yourself. So it's very fun to use. I definitely recommend trying this out inside of PvP. Now, do I recommend it in competitive or trials? Probably not. 6v6 is where it shines the most. And of course, if you're always getting the ionic traces, you're creating those orbs of power, you know, you will always have a grenade to consume. That's going to do it for the build, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like rating down below, and also consider subscribing to my channel. It is a free way to support me. Also too, in the comments down below, leave me a link. Yeah, guys, go ahead and give this build a go. Also too, I want to let you know, thank you to everybody that's been watching my videos lately. It is greatly appreciated. This just happened to come to me one day when I was streaming away a copy of the final shape. So if you aren't subscribed, kindly do so if you do want to enter for a chance to win the final shape. But I will have more details on that after the Destiny 2 showcase. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you all in the next video.
The house and no fear. The hunt has ended.